Welcome to Broadband Action, a podcast presented by the Community Broadband Action Network. I'm Curtis Dean, your host. And today we're going to be talking about a $5.3 billion story. And this story is coming to us out of what has been known in the industry as the Gig City, Chattanooga, Tennessee, for quite a while. And that Gig City moniker may be evolving over time as they've got a lot of things they're working on. And so we have a couple of gentlemen who cooperated to put together a study that is focusing on the economic impacts of the Chattanooga EPB's fiber network in the city of Chattanooga. So joining me today, Dr. Bento Lobo, and he is a UC Foundation professor at University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. He's worked with and helped study EPB 3 different times over the years. And also William Plank. And William, you are EPB's first community economist. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Fantastic. Well, thank you both for coming on. Just for either of you, how did you come to collaborate on this study? I know, Dr. Lobo, you were doing this a few different times. And did you bring William along for the ride this time as the new staff person dealing with economic impacts?
William has a very, accomplished set of skills in input-output modeling, and I needed that skill set for this study because it's a slightly different methodological approach from the studies I've done in the past. So William brought tremendous skills to the table, and and of course his innate knowledge of the utility industry from being with UPB was very helpful as well.
Yeah, that background probably really helps bring some meat to the bones of the project, I would imagine. Well, I teased a little bit kind of the headline of our conversation here and the headline of the study that you both collaborated on. And that is the fact that your study has shown, and I'm going to put up a URL here on the screen for those of you who are watching. We'll link it in the post if you're just listening, of the study that you did showing about $5.3 billion in economic value in Chattanooga to EPB's fiber project, a whole lot of jobs, and a huge return on the investment. So, Dr. Lobo, how do you measure the economic value?
That's been the challenge from day one. How do you measure the value of infrastructure, right? And so what we did was, what was unique about Chattanooga was that EPB was really the only provider of commercial fiber and residential fiber in the footprint. And so the initial approach was to say, well, how has the business model evolved, right? What have they done with that? And so the initial impetus for the fiber infrastructure was the smart grid. So, I go to the annual reports and we say, well, what do I see in the annual reports that tells me that this infrastructure made a difference, right? So that was one place to go. And then we also learned that community-wide broadband was an easy extension of the infrastructure. And so they had created a fiber division to essentially address these issues of broadband and some legacy video and internet stuff that they had going on. So methodologically, you're looking at the financials, you're looking at the operating costs, the revenues, and you piece it together, and then you go out. Now, historically, I've done it analytically, so I've gone out to different pockets of the community, doctors, for example, radiologists, big bandwidth hungry types of individuals and firms, and say, well, how are you using this? What does it make a difference that you have this kind of bandwidth, right? And then teachers would describe to me, hey, it saves me time in the classroom, or so I would push them a little bit and say, hey, can you tell me in terms of hours, and then I can, once I have stuff like that, then I can put some economic meat on that bone, because I know what the average hourly wage of a teacher is, for example, right? And so I know what on average a radiologist makes, and so it's often about time saved, business efficiencies.
Yeah.
And then there's this whole category of area that you and I as individuals can't even find a monetary value for, right? The benefit of just sitting on your couch and shopping, right? Doing all your Christmas
Right.
shopping on you. So online shopping. Well, what's the monetary value of that? So we had to use another technique called consumer surplus to try to capture that, you know. And so this time around, the study had multiple facets to it, including a 10-year look forward, and then this whole quantum piece, which I'm sure we'll talk
Hmm.
about at some point. And so it became important to have both a mix of analytical as well as model-based estimates.
I've been talking to communities for a long time,
Hmm.
communities like Chattanooga that are looking at investing in this vital infrastructure.
Hmm.
And I've always said that many of the community benefits don't show up on a spreadsheet. They're off the
Right.
books, but they're absolutely vital. So one of the things that really captured me about the study was how you've been able to quantify some of this. Um,
Yeah, and that's the challenge. And I think
mhm.
hopefully it'll spur more efforts to measure and quantify and collect data and do all that kind of stuff. But it's what I think is the best available given what we know and have in terms of data.
Right. Well, one of the real quantifiable items that you've identified, I want to talk a little bit about next is smart grid,
Hmm.
because we do have a lot of public utilities in the nation that have built fiber networks. Very few of them have done as much as Chattanooga has done and EPB has done with the smart grid technology. So, William, talk a little bit about and what are some examples of how this intelligence, this network has allowed the EPB electric division to do a better job of delivering services and even, save money and make sure operations more efficient.
Yeah. So one of the big things whenever we're talking about our smart grid and our fiber infrastructure here in Chattanooga is it really started as the smart grid. That was the real focus.
Hmm.
Was building out this smart grid and having this understanding of what we could do to improve the quality of life of residents and businesses in our footprint. One thing that it can do, and one of the best examples is automated switching. So the way that works with the smart grid and through the fiber network, those kind of cross collaboration and how that technology is used is if we have a storm come through or a major event come through, and it takes down a power line or a couple of power lines, these automated switches will recognize where that took place and shut off
Hmm.
that switch and divert that power through another route so that we can keep more customers online, um, both electric and internet, as much as possible. Um, that is a huge cost savings. So it reduces
Hmm.
recovery costs for us as a utility, as well as it provides those businesses and those residents with continual service. So way more reliable, more resiliency.
So that disaster recovery is an important element. Anybody who is in the electric utility business understands that getting a fast recovery is a key to keeping your ratepayers happy and keeping the meter spinning. So you've
Yeah.
been able to quantify some of that. That's amazing.
Well, I will add that one of the tools we use to quantify that is provided by the Department of Energy.
Hmm.
They have what is called an ICE calculator, interruption cost estimator. And so people recognize that there are important costs, economic costs of interrupting the flow of energy and electricity. And so there are models out there that help us quantify that.
That's fantastic. I want to talk a little bit about, we've talked about smart grid savings, operational savings. What has been some of the impacts to the jobs and income in Chattanooga? I saw this story or the study referred to over 10,000 jobs can be attributed to that. How do you measure that? How do you quantify that?
Yeah. So jobs are tricky to measure because the question you're asking is, can we attribute the jobs to the infrastructure and to, in particular, either the smart grid or high-speed broadband, which are the business elements of the infrastructure.
Hmm.
And so the question you have to ask is, well, if there are a whole bunch of factors that could influence jobs, why do people come here? Why do people why are people employed, what's all that kind of stuff. And so there are methods and models in economics that control for all those other factors and
Mm-hmm.
isolate causally the effect of this infrastructure on, let's say, the study that I used was a study that two co-authors of mine and I worked on, uh, published in Telecommunications Policy, where we estimated the impact of high quality broadband on unemployment rates, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so we showed that there was a decline in unemployment rates in communities that had high quality broadband. And you can use that to infer what that means, that in terms of jobs created and or saved because of the infrastructure.
Right.
So this takes into consideration all the other factors that could impact employment, controls for that, and then isolates the effect of this infrastructure on employment. So that's where those numbers came from.
Mm-hmm.
And what's one of the interesting things about this latest study, which is a 15-year look back, is that it gets harder and harder now to isolate the effect of the infrastructure because people take it for granted, right? It's not
Yes.
that new thing anymore, right? And so in the paper that we were referencing, we had this sort of early mover premium that meant something to communities that got into the business earlier. We took that out of the estimation process this time
Okay.
because we said the honeymoon period's over now,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
It's
so
just a thing now.
it's just a
Mhm.
thing. People just take it for granted. At a time, 10 years, 15 years ago, I remember people were saying, well, what are we going to do with all this bandwidth, right? Well, and now if we don't have it, we gripe about it, right? And so yeah, and you might be able to see some of that in the study from the sort of the subscription rates, the take rates. Uh,
Yeah.
and so that's the thing. And the other thing is, of course, we've had some other private providers who are starting to drop some fiber in the community, not in this, it's not community wide like EPB,
Right.
but
Right.
that's something that's happened more recently post COVID. And so it gets harder to distinguish between where those effects are coming from because we don't have the same visibility into private provider data that we do with EPB's data as a
Yeah.
public entity.
Now, William, you've had there have been some good successes in Chattanooga um, since EPB built the fiber network. Industries, businesses taking advantage of this. What do what do businesses tell you when they're going to locate in the Chattanooga region? What do they tell you about why that they made that decision?
Well, fiber usually comes up as one of the top reasons,
Mm-hmm.
specifically around our symmetrical internet service. So it's not
Right.
just that you're getting high speed internet in terms of download, you also get that on upload. And
Mm-hmm.
for businesses, especially data intensive businesses that are transferring data or large data packets, or whatever they're doing in terms of like video production or telehealth, having that ability to upload at the same speed as your download speeds, that's vitally important. If you're thinking about health implications and sending data packets around individuals' health scans, whatever that may be, radiology, it's important to have that symmetrical internet so that analysis can take place at a faster rate and give results to those customers that really need that.
Absolutely. Well, we got just a few minutes left in our discussion today. So much to talk about, but I want to talk a little bit about your quantum network because that's something that is it's really something that EPB and Chattanooga have led with and has been something that you've innovated with. Um, who wants to give me a 30,000 foot view of what a quantum network is and why it's important?
I think I will, and I will,
Okay.
I will say this. I picked the title of this study, and I deliberately called it "From Gig City to Quantum City," because
Mm-hmm.
I think quantum is that new hot thing that you do with this infrastructure now. That was what gig was in 2010. And
Yeah.
so if you're looking 10 years, 15 years out, my bet is that we're going to be coming back then and saying, well, They were an early mover, and this is the effects of what they got from it. So I think it's a big deal. Quantum is just the most recent commercial manifestation of quantum mechanics that has been a discipline of physics, as you know, for over
Hmm.
100 years. And but what's striking to me as a non-physicist is the rapid pace of innovation in this space in just more recent times. I mean, some of the
Mm,
numbers are staggering in terms of just the rate of growth, the amount of manpower, the amount of private capital that is going
right.
into this area, and gradually more and more federal funding as well. In fact, the current administration, I think, has some initiatives there that are supportive of quantum, and so there's more and more funding going in there, and the use cases are becoming more and more clear, and and it goes beyond stuff like cybersecurity and grid security,
Right.
financial security. I mean, there are just numerous applications there,
Absolutely.
and it's one of those things where a non-physicist like myself, I'm just sort of holding my breath, waiting to see what's going to happen, because we're on the cusp there, I think.
The unknown can be very, very, very interesting. And
Exciting,
as,
yeah.
as someone who's kind of a geek, I love watching these new developments because you
Hmm.
just don't know exactly what direction it'll go, but it's sure fun to watch it develop in front
Right.
of your very eyes. Yeah. So before we get going here, just real quick, uh, what are some, either of you can answer to this, what are some lessons learned for other communities out there that are either have built a fiber network and are just using it as a way to get internet to people, or are exploring building a fiber network and are looking for the best way to leverage that? Some advice for those communities out there.
William, I'll let you go first on
All
that.
right, yeah. So I think advice for other communities just in general around fiber, and I'm going to talk about smart grid as well because smart grid is vitally important, as
Sure.
well as quantum going forward. Um, I think a big thing to understand is research is necessary. So really
Mm,
understanding that technology and how it's going to play a role in your local community. What's the value of that if you can make an estimation, as Dr. Lobo did for us over about 20 years ago, what that would be for Chattanooga. Understanding that at the forefront is a great way to have the community see it in a way that is beneficial, whether it's for businesses or residents. You want to have that total look at the community and how that technology is going to change that community in a positive way.
yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, we're out of time, but I do want to thank you both for being guests on our podcast. I really want to thank everybody at EPB and the city of Chattanooga for really being real leaders in this field and showing an example of what can be done when a community makes up its mind to do the right thing and leverages the technology that you have to the best benefit of every person in the community. So hats off to both of you. My guest today, William Plank, is with EPB, and Dr. Bento Lobo is with the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. I'm going to pop the study URL up here real quick again if you would like to link to it. I believe it's also likely on the EPB website, but I just gave you a little short URL of the study, available as a PDF online. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Absolutely. Thank you all for listening or watching, and we'll see you next time here on Broadband Action.